So, that's filming now? Yes? Okay, great. Alright. Hello everyone and welcome to the wonderful world of Pokémon. Now, before we start, I just need you to tell me, are you a boy or are you a girl? Wait. Sorry, what? Oh, we're filming that one right now. Oh, okay, sorry. Alright, hello investors. I've got a great new thing to introduce to you today on behalf of Sifco. Now, before we get into the details here, I just want to take you through a few of the background things so you get an idea of where we're coming from with this invention. Now, you're all of course familiar with the Pokeballs. We've been using them for over a decade now. I mean, they're so cheap that, geez, a kid could buy one with his lunch money. Only 200 Pokedollars. Really, that's not very much. Now, in the last few years, we've heard increasingly about how people are finding, just like on the side of the road, these items in Pokeballs. I mean, I heard the other day about some kid who somehow managed to capture a rice ball in his Pokeball. Or was it a donut?
There's no way I'm gonna miss this chance. Mikey, you're mine now! Huh? It's a donut!
In any case, most of these Pokeballs that people are finding by the side of the road, we know they're just being left there by trainers who've been overcome by the increasingly violent wild Pokemon we see these days. So there's definitely a need there for more people to be able to protect their items when they're going out travelling. I mean, when you're at home, you can just put your item into your PC, it's not really a problem, but when you're going out, you need that bit more protection. So, I have for you the item ball. Not actually all that much different to a Pokeball, to be honest. I mean, when you think about it, if a kid's able to capture his rice ball or donut or whatever in a Pokeball, obviously the technology does already work with inanimate objects. Right now, though, no one is exploiting this kind of thing. We still move between houses in moving vans. Kids still take backpacks filled with all sorts of weird equipment with them anytime they're going off on their badge quests. This little thing might help save them, and might help with a few other things too. Now, the design here isn't final. We've just gone with your standard classic Pokeball design for now. The marketing guys had thought that perhaps for some of the potential uses we see for this, that a more cube-like design would be a bit better sell because you can stack them and so forth. Unfortunately, the first design they came up with that's apparently owned by some company that I don't know, has something to do with boilers. Not really important. The ball's probably going to be our best solution in the long term, though, simply because it's a lot easier to actually shrink these once you've put something in there. I mean, we don't want people to have these giant boxes around, because that's kind of defeating the purpose. Because the real purpose of these things is basically storage. Doesn't have to be storage while travelling. I mean, that's one of the things we're emphasising. It could be storage at home, particularly for some of the larger items that might not fit into your computer's hard drive, or where there's some other concern about it, where it might not suit those systems. But there's also a number of other uses. I mean, think about it. I've already talked about moving trucks, but if you're putting things in Pokeballs, why does it need to be restricted, or item balls rather, why does it need to be restricted to something like that? Why not put things in item balls when you're shipping overseas? I mean, let's be honest here, the largest Pokemon that has been captured in a Pokeball that we know of, Groudon, it's several tons. I mean, I've heard stories from this old guy about this kid who was surfing up and down Cinnabar Island who managed to catch something that weighed something like double that value. If we can already fit things that heavy, that massive, into a Pokeball, why can't we do that with an item ball? Think about the next time you're going into work. I mean, terrible congestion these days. How are you going to find a park? Who needs a park? Park by the side of the road, put your car in your item ball, take it with you to your office. No more paying for car spots every single day of the week. Friends, that alone would sell these, but that's not the limit of the potential uses for these. I mean, think of the military applications for starters. The initial ones that we produce may not be able to take the weight, but we can probably manage in the second generation. I choose you, M1A1 Abrams main battle tank. I mean, when you think about it, there's so many different applications for this kind of thing, it's ridiculous. And yet no one currently is doing anything like this in our world. No one. I mean, potentially, no, certainly, these are going to become the #1 required gadget. You can use them for home storage, for transport, for mailing things. The applications I've already mentioned. You know, I'm sure people are going to figure out even more applications after a while. Just off the top of my head, how about theft prevention? We all know right now that you can't capture a Pokémon that's already been captured by another trainer's Pokeball. You throw a Pokeball at it and nothing happens. So why not put all your furniture into into item balls, and becomes so much harder to take. Think about the space savings. I mean, with the overcrowding we're seeing in our cities these days, why get a 3-bedroom house when you could get a 2-bedroom unit and change your dining room to your bedroom with just a couple of item balls? Actually, there's another one for theft prevention. When the thief comes into your house, why not just throw the item ball with your sofa in it at him? He's not coming back up after that, let's be honest. Okay, so how much are these going to cost us to make? Well, not all that much, actually. What we'll be doing is basically just taking the existing technology we have with the Pokeball, tweaking it a little to make sure that we get the patents, and honestly, we'll be able to use our existing Pokeball production lines. The first generation of them will probably cost about the same as an Ultra Ball, so about, a bit over 1,000 Poké Dollars, but we can eventually get that down to Pokeball costs, I expect. So eventually, it's going to be cheap enough that a bully could beat up a kid for his lunch money and buy a couple. It's not going to be that expensive, which is going to help us a lot because there's going to be a huge demand for these little doohickeys in the long term. So the only thing we really need to ask ourselves at this point is how do we want to sell it, first up? I mentioned before the military applications. Honestly, I'm a little worried that if we start selling to the military right off the bat, then they're going to make it a bit of a restricted technology, and even though we'll get government contracts, it'll be a bit of a problem. Really, we want this in every household soon. So, first off, I think we're better off emphasising the household storage routes, or maybe the stuff for storage for people going on trips. I mean, think about it, you can put a tent in one of these fairly easily, already set up, so that's going to save you a lot of trouble. But we can definitely move into some of the other things in the long term. Certainly long distance shipping and freight, it'll be very useful for this in the long term, but we'll need to up the weight capacity of them, I would expect, for that to become very viable. Otherwise they're going to need to take hundreds of these little babies to fit in their shipments to begin with, and then it gets a bit complicated. Okay, well, any questions? Hey everyone, this is Liam Pomfret, the webmaster of bulbagarden.net and the Bulbapedia. I just wanted to say a few more words just to give you guys a bit more of an idea of how I came up with this idea and that sort of thing. Basically, when I got this challenge, I looked at it as, well, most inventors invent things based on their own real-life experiences, right? And I wanted to put that together with my fandoms, with the things that got me into these finals in the first place. So, what's that give me? Well, I'm a Pokémon fan. I love most of the Nintendo franchises, and most relevant to this, I'm moving house in, well, now, to be honest. From Nintendo, I got the idea of using old technology in new creative ways. I mean, that's what Nintendo have done with the Wii and the DS. I thought maybe I can find something that'll do that similar. From Pokémon, I got these little guys, the Pokeball. I mean, this isn't actually a Pokeball, this is a Gachapon thing that I had lying around, but I think it did the job nicely. Pokeballs are the most widespread technology in Pokemon, but they really aren't being used in any other ways. I mentioned already in the video all these things about people finding items in the game. I mean, you can't buy something like that in-game. I mean, do you need it when you've got a backpack that's got storage somewhere between a Hewitt's Handy Haversack and a portable hole? I don't know, but it seemed like a fairly decent thing that could be applied more towards real-world problems. I mean, this kind of technology for mass storage, when you think about it, I mean, it's fantastical, but it's also not all that common. I mean, think about it. Star Wars, Star Trek, all those kinds of big sci-fi series, they're still carrying stuff around the universe in big, bulk freighters. I mean, off the top of my head, the only kinds of sci-fi series or science fantasy series that have this kind of stuff, you got like your Transformers, where you've got like Soundwave becomes this little tiny cassette tape. You've got the Nintendo's Metroid franchise, where she goes up into a little ball. But those are, I think, more rare examples. It's not all that common. So, yeah, I took something that would solve my own problem of moving, solve the problems of many geeks, I think, with all the junk we seem to collect in our rooms, and found an existing Pokemon technology that wasn't being utilised to its full potential and could potentially solve that problem. So, that's my invention, that's my entry, and hopefully I'll be seeing you guys in the next round of the finals.